throughout the United States. That means everybody, no matter how poor or how rich, pays the same taxes. Now, I don't know if they use a percentage or they use a flat dollar amount, but I'm getting tired of paying for everybody that isn't paying.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I'll get into that in the taxation part.
I want to know in the healthcare thing here, everybody has to buy a policy. Everybody but who? The ones that don't buy a policy already.
Seems, ladies and gentlemen, you're taking a look at the way the Constitution was framed. Our founding fathers really understood where we are today, and they saw this coming. That's why you had the Constitution, the 7 articles, written the way they were written, to restrict the government, so the government could help each and every individual state, but be confined, controlled, and small enough to where they were focused only on specific duties, responsibilities that Jake is going into right now. It seems that we have gone the opposite way. They're taking little phrases, and they're taking little clauses, and they're taking little innuendos that they think they see in the Constitution, and they're running freaking rampant all over us right now with it. We got to get away from that. We got to bring ourselves back to the original intent.
Well, again, back to taxation. You're correct in the original way the Constitution was written. In Article 1, Section 9, they say no capitation, which at that point usually was like a poll tax, or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. So again, what that means is that Congress couldn't say, you know, you two here, I can tax you $5, but I'm going to tax him $10 because, you know, he's rich. It actually did block Congress from doing it for a very long time. And then when you actually got to, a lot of bad things happened around 1913, 1916. One of them was, and the Constitution is not a perfect, yes, the Constitution is not a perfect document. The 16th Amendment is actually taken by many today to mean that is known as the income tax amendment. And actually, if you read it, you'll say, oh, this is, this clearly authorizes an income tax. But it actually does not. But what it does do, and the 16th Amendment is, let me read it, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment That's a tough one. Among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. So it actually revoked what was in there. And for the first time, well, they actually did it a few times before in the time of Lincoln, but for the first time it was actually constitutional for the federal government to tax individuals. So I could tax, you know, Andrew $10 and only tax you $5, or maybe reverse it if I feel like it. So I actually am not in favor of the 16th Amendment. It didn't directly authorize an income tax because at the time income was pretty much like from corporations or what have you.
That's a free will giving. It's a free will giving, according to that.
Yeah, they just kind of widened the crack there.
May I segue into that?
Sure.
The 16th Amendment was never fully ratified. Somebody knocking at the door? Yeah. It was never fully, properly ratified, therefore it is illegal and should be thrown out. And the same holds true with the 17th Amendment. That was forced through over a recess of the holidays, and there were 33 senators that were missing when they took that vote also. So there's 2 amendments right there that could be...
Well, I understand Ohio didn't sign the 16th until 1955 or 6 or something like that. And that was the last one that gave it the authority, even though they've been using the authority for 50 years already.
All right, so let's finish up taxation and get back to things. For taxation, in Article 1, Section 7, it reads that all bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. So again, what that means is when they say raising revenues, it means any bill that taxes has to come from the House of Representatives. So again, the reason that they wanted that is because they figured, you know, the representatives get removed every couple of years. They're more, just like when we discussed war, they're more answerable to the people. So if they're going to put a new tax on people, they'll kind of be held to pay. So they'll get removed faster than any other place in the government. Then that every bill, let's see. And then actually this came up during the recent healthcare debate, that every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approves it, he could sign it. So again, the same bill has to go through both houses, and they have this reconciliation process that kind of subverts around it. But both Democrats and Republicans have kind of been doing this for like the last, it's nothing new, for the last few decades. But that's how it's supposed to work. And if he does veto it, he would, list the objections and send it back to the houses and back to the Senate and the House, and then they could override the veto, but they would need a 2/3 majority in both houses to override anything, which is a little bit unlikely. Let's see, okay, I'm going to move to actually criminal and tort laws. And today in our society, what the federal government does, again, they legislate on all types of criminal acts and actually tort. And like one of the things that the current healthcare bill doesn't do, which would be a good thing in general, is actually tort reform for malpractice and that type of thing. It doesn't address it, and in a lot of ways, actually, constitutionally, they're not allowed to. Because what's also, again, not listed anywhere in the Constitution is the authority over criminal and tort laws. These were left to the states, so the states could decide, the penalties for murder or for theft, and that type of thing. The only thing that actually says, the only thing in terms of law that they delegated to Congress was from Article 1, Section 8, which reads to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court and to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. So again, what the Congress saw is, and what they call this was maritime law. They saw, if we have these things out here, this ship gets this stolen from this one, it's going to be kind of a problem if we have the trial held in a certain state. So a federal court system was set up to kind of address these types of things, or foreign nationals doing something else to the United States. So that's actually what the federal court system is originally for. It's not for all these other laws. Everything else was left to the states, because remember, the states created the federal government, not vice versa. So the states, they had their own laws that they could write, and kind of the way it worked is people were happier with their own laws written by, they had more control over their House legislature and their House Senate.
Well, once again, they're failing to do their job by punishing pirates. We got pirates out there. We got nuclear subs that can be one of those ships coming out of harbor, from 1,000 miles away. All he has to do is walk over there.
Well, except that would cost millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Or they could just send out a letter
We got
of
one that's sitting right
mark,
there
and
watching.
that's the whole point of letters of mark.
The one thing I'd like to say about.
Oh, I'm sorry,
tort reform that would help
am I in
us
front of
here,
this thing?
I'm not crazy over European anything except your tort reform.
Okay.
If you take a lawsuit to court and it's deemed frivolous, the lawyer that took it to court has to pay all the fees and all that for the thing. I think we need that here. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I
We
might
need
put a
that
stop
in
to some of
frivolous
those.
lawsuits, that whoever lost pays all the fees, and the lawyer had to pay because he's the one that took it to court.
That's a good point, because it would kind of discourage things. But again,
Yeah.
back in the federal constitution, it's the states that are supposed to be doing this, not the federal government.
Yeah, and
That's the
our
intent.
senators and representatives are mostly lawyers.
Of course.
So they're not going to put the money on their back. So, but I would like